Hello, my name is John Bradley Whitehead. I am an addict. I'd like you to listen to this video just for at least 1 minute or 2 minutes, just so you know what this video is all about. Basically, I'm trying to promote um, what addiction is for the people who are addicts and for the loved ones who are watching it go around them, because it must be horrible for the loved ones. Now, brief timeline of mine. I had, I'm 3 years sober now. I suffer with mental health problems, but I want to keep this video purely addiction based. But I did used to use alcohol as a way of dealing with my illness, the emptiness, and the anxiety. But then the problem was the next day you'd wake up and you'd feel worse, and it's the hair of the dog. You'd just Alcohol wasn't the problem; it was a solution. So you'd keep drinking, and then the next day you'd drink, and it was a vicious circle, round and round and round and round. Now, I'm a chronic gambling addict, and to admit that I'm an addict is something that took me a while. Um, I've lost thousands of pounds over the years, um, absolutely thousands, um, and for me personally, when I gamble, it makes me selfish. I make selfish choices, and I'm not a selfish person, so I don't like what it can do to me. Now, moving on, I want to talk about what addiction is for each person who's got an addiction. Now, some people don't like the word addict; they prefer to use sort of addictive personalities, alcohol dependent, that sort of stuff. That's absolutely fine. Now, me personally, it's my personal preference. I just prefer to use the term addict because I think it's more straight to the point and it says it as it is. Now, there's one thing that all addicts will have in common. Each person has DNA that is different. The fingerprints will be different. But I could put an arm, a dollar, an arm and a leg that each one of you is feeling alone or lonely or helpless of some sort, and that is the one thing which, as addicts, is the most soul destroying thing in the world. Now, I think I, I think it's a 50-50 approach with addiction. And this is my feelings on it. 50% is in your DNA that you can't help, or it could be life circumstances. 50% is you can help, and you use any old excuse in the book to gamble, or do whatever addictive behaviour you have got. Take it from someone who knows. Take it from someone who has worn that T-shirt and will continue to wear that T-shirt for the rest of his life. Moving on now. People who are on the outskirts watching a loved one, whether it be your son, daughter, husband, wife, grandma, whatever, nephew, it must be soul destroying. Watching somebody go through it, any addiction, and I can imagine that there must be a feeling of desperation, helplessness. You just want to fix the problem. Loved ones are terrified, and they're affected just as much as the addict, if not worse, because they're so concerned. If it's a drug abuser, they could be worried about an overdose. If it's a gambling addict, they could be worried about getting in financial problems with dangerous people. So loved ones get affected just as much as the addict themselves. And I think that's really, really important to keep in mind, because I think sometimes those watching from the outskirts, and the helplessness they must feel, I feel it sort of gets brushed under a rug. And I know this from my own personal experience, that I've brushed how hard it must have been for family and friends watching me over the years. I don't have all the answers, but I do have a little bit of experience. But you loved ones, you suffer as well. I know that. So always remember that. Now moving on. How can a gambling addict, someone who's an alcoholic, a drug addict, whatever the addiction, sex addicts, how can you manage it? The first thing you need to do, and you cannot manage it without doing it, is you need to accept that you are an addict and there's a problem. Because living in denial, which I once was, is probably how a lot of you are going to feel about things. But simply admitting the problem is probably at least half of the battle. I like to work on a 50-50 approach. Don't beat yourself up too much about it, because if you have relapses or lapses along the way, I don't want that to then have a snowball effect. But also, don't use your addiction as an excuse to just continue being the addict. Because I've been there, I've worn that t-shirt, it was any excuse to have a bet. Oh, so and so upset me, I'm gonna go and have a bet. So and so's happening, I'm gonna drink. But with my drink, it was more complex because of my mental health needs. Also, cut loved ones around you, family slack, because they will just be really, really worried about you. And then I'd just say open up to somebody you trust, whether that be a family member, a friend, a mother or father, a professional. But owning the problem and wearing it and saying, I am this, and you know what, I'm not ashamed of it, I think will really, really help you. Now I feel like I can offer a lot in terms of my advice. So speak to someone, because bottling it up is, and I'm not sitting here preaching, because I've gone through all of this, and I will always be going through it, and I want you to always remember that you're always a recovering addict. You're never a recovered one. Because if once you get complacent with the illness, because it is a mental illness, that's when it comes back and creeps up on you. Trust me, from someone who knows. So cut yourself some slack, but also be tough on yourself. But cut your family some slack and make sure you speak to somebody. Now, moving on to the loved ones having to watch their family go through it, or a friend go through it, or whatever. It must be absolutely soul destroying. I only know this. I only know from what my family have told me about what it's been like for them. I put people in positions where they were enabling me to do things, which was selfish of me. So drawing back on my experience, I will say try not to enable the addiction and the habit, but I know it's difficult, and it's a very complex subject. Just like the advice I give to the person suffering the addiction, speak to somebody, your friend, a professional. Even think about joining a support group, and even for the addicts, the advice I just gave, you join a support group too. Speak to like-minded people that are watching their son or daughter go through similar stuff, because it might bring so much relief to you. And again, this is advice of both parties, the addict, and the loved one suffering, watching them go through it. Speak to each other if you can communicate. If you're on a level where you can do without falling out, then do that, because that's the best way. But conflict is the last thing you need. So if you've got any problems, someone you trust, speak to someone you trust and just say, look, my son is going through this, my daughter's going through this, I really don't know what to do. You will need that emotional support. Work on the 50-50 rule. Cut the person a bit of slack, because they're going through turmoil, because it's not as simple as just stopping. Because if it was, they wouldn't be an addict. But don't be too soft. Read the riot act when it needs to be read, because again, I would get defensive every single time it happened, but I've had the riot act read to me by certain family members, and now when I look back, it had to be read out. It's all about balance, it really is, and it's such a difficult, complex subject that is not cut and dry. Now, my inbox is always open. I want to help people. Whether you are whatever you're going through, you don't have to worry about dropping me a message. Even if you're not the one with the addiction, please, if you need advice, I'm here. I really am. Extreme cases, with addiction can cause organ failure, suicide, and again, that is really not a good thing. So I will always be there, or here, waiting for you. Always, from my experience, I'm not qualified, but try and work on the 50-50 approach. Half of it is subconscious, half of it is conscious, and just be kind, cut each other some slack. You all want the same thing, you're all concerned, you all feel alone, but whatever you do, communicate with somebody. I really hope I've been of some help and comfort to people. Thank you for watching. Without you people, none of this could happen. None of this could happen for me being able to help people, which really it's close to my heart. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.